Welcome to The Lost Love, an English story designed to boost your language skills while sharing a heartfelt journey. As you listen, you'll explore memories, missed chances, and rekindled feelings. This story is perfect for learners, easy to follow, with engaging vocabulary to improve your listening and comprehension. Dive in and see how language brings heartwarming tales to life.
Chapter 1: The Encounter. It was an ordinary Tuesday when Mark, a successful architect in his 30s, decided to take a different route to work. He usually avoided the downtown area due to traffic, but something urged him to drive through that part of town. As he passed an old bookstore, he caught sight of someone who looked strangely familiar through the window. A figure bent over a book, her hair cascading over her shoulders just like he remembered. Mark couldn't shake the feeling. He parked his car and walked into the shop, his mind swirling with memories of his first love, Emma. They hadn't spoken in nearly a decade, and he wasn't even sure if it was really her. But as he approached, she looked up and their eyes met. There was no mistaking it, it was Emma. Her expression went from curiosity to recognition, then to a warm smile that seemed to close the years between them. "Mark," she said softly, her voice a mixture of surprise and nostalgia. "Yes," he replied, his voice almost catching. "Emma, it's been so long." They decided to sit and catch up over coffee at a cafe nearby. As they talked, Mark felt as if he were transported back to their younger days. Emma told him she was now a writer, working on her second book, and had recently returned to town to care for her mother. She laughed about how life had taken her in so many unexpected directions, and she couldn't believe they'd cross paths again after all these years. For Mark, the memories came flooding back. Their late-night talks, dreams shared, and the summer they spent together before life and choices took them in different directions. He had once thought she was the love of his life, and seeing her again made him wonder if perhaps that feeling had never really faded. Emma glanced at her watch and realized she had to go. But before she left, she handed him her number saying, "It would be nice to catch up again. Let's not make it another 10 years. Mark watched her walk away, feeling as though a chapter of his life he had long closed had just been reopened. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a spark of something he thought he'd lost. Chapter 2: Rekindling the Flame. Mark couldn't get Emma out of his mind after that chance encounter. Her presence felt like a haunting memory brought to life, a glimpse of a past that had remained untouched in his heart for years. He found himself replaying the sound of her laugh, her thoughtful expressions, the way she smiled at little things. He was intrigued, drawn to reconnect with the person who once meant so much to him. A week after they'd met at the bookstore, Mark reached out to Emma, and they arranged to meet again, this time at a park they used to visit when they were young. It was one of those perfect early autumn days, with the air crisp and the leaves turning colors. As he arrived, he saw Emma already waiting on a bench, looking just as he remembered, except with a calm wisdom in her eyes. They began to walk, reminiscing about their younger days, laughing at shared memories, and marveling at how much had changed since. Emma spoke about her career as a writer, her travels, and the struggles she'd faced along the way. She had grown and changed in ways Mark hadn't anticipated, and yet at her core, she was still the Emma he had loved, curious, resilient, and kind. After a while, they sat down near the edge of a pond, and the conversation turned more serious. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if things were different back then?" Mark asked, his voice a mixture of hesitation and curiosity. Emma smiled, looking down at her hands. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But I think that everything we went through, the paths we chose, the people we became, is what brought us to where we are now. It makes us who we are." Her words resonated with Mark, though he couldn't help but wonder what might still be possible between them. After all, they were different people now, more mature, more sure of what they wanted. Over the next few weeks, their meetings became regular. They'd go for coffee, watch films at the theater, and explore places around town, rediscovering each other in new ways. It felt as though they were filling in the gaps of a story that had been left unfinished. Mark found himself becoming excited about his days again, and Emma seemed to bring out a side of him that had been buried beneath years of routine and responsibility. One evening, as they walked through a quiet part of town, Mark finally shared his heart with her. "Emma, I don't know if it's just nostalgia or something more, but I can't ignore what I feel when I'm around you," he said, his voice steady but vulnerable. "Seeing you again has made me realize there's a part of me that never stopped caring about you. I don't want to let this go without seeing where it might lead." Emma looked at him thoughtfully. She took a deep breath, and Mark could see the conflict in her eyes. "Mark, these past weeks have been a gift, something I never expected. But I've built a life just like you have, and there's a part of me that's scared to undo it. Reconnecting has been beautiful, but it's also complicated." Mark nodded, understanding the weight of her words. She was right. They had separate lives, histories, and commitments that couldn't be erased. But he also sensed that neither of them wanted to let this chance slip away again. They walked in silence for a few moments before Emma spoke again. "Let's take it one day at a time. No expectations, no rush. Just, let's see where this leads." Mark agreed, feeling both relieved and exhilarated. It wasn't the promise of a happily ever after, but it was a beginning, a chance to rebuild what had been lost, to see if the bond between them could grow into something new. As they parted that night, Mark felt a surge of hope. Whatever happened, he knew he didn't want to look back on this moment with regret. Emma had returned to his life, and he was determined to see if their paths were meant to intertwine once again. Chapter 3. A New Path Together. Mark and Emma continued to see each other, sharing laughter and memories as they'd done in their youth, but now with a deeper, richer connection. With each passing week, they learned more about each other's pasts, dreams, and fears. They moved slowly, respecting the complexities of their lives and giving themselves time to process the feelings that were resurfacing. One evening, they attended a small art exhibit near Emma's apartment. Wandering through the gallery, they marveled at the paintings, discussing their interpretations of the colors, the strokes, the emotions behind the artwork. By the end of the night, as they walked back through the quiet streets, a comfortable silence settled between them. Emma stopped, turning to look at Mark with a seriousness he hadn't seen before. "Mark," she said quietly, "there's something I need to tell you." Mark felt a knot form in his stomach, uncertain of what she was about to say. Emma took a deep breath and continued, "I've been offered a position to teach a creative writing course in Paris for 6 months. It's a dream opportunity, something I've wanted for years." Mark's heart sank, but he forced a smile, nodding with understanding. "That's incredible, Emma. You should be proud. Paris is, well, it's perfect for you." She nodded, clearly excited but also conflicted. "I know it's a big opportunity, but part of me is torn because it feels like just when we found each other again I'd be leaving." Mark reached out, taking her hands in his. "Emma, I want you to follow your dreams. This chance is important for you and I don't want to hold you back. What we have here, it's strong enough to withstand the distance. I can wait." Emma's eyes glistened, touched by his words. "Mark, you're the one who taught me to take chances, to believe in possibilities. But what about you? I don't want you to feel left behind." He smiled softly. "I've spent too many years holding back. Meeting you again has shown me that life isn't meant to be lived in fear or regret. If I know you're out there doing what you love, it's enough for me." They stood there under the city lights, embracing the bittersweet reality of the moment. Their love, though rekindled, wasn't defined by proximity. It was a bond built on respect, understanding, and shared dreams. In the weeks before her departure, they made the most of every moment together, from quiet dinners to long conversations by the fire. When the day finally came, they said goodbye at the airport, promising to keep in touch and visit when they could. They knew it would be difficult, but both felt confident that the love they had rekindled was worth the wait. Months passed and they remained in each other's lives, sharing letters, photos, and late-night calls across time zones. Emma's time in Paris deepened her art and expanded her horizons, while Mark found new energy and joy in his own work, inspired by Emma's courage and growth. When she finally returned, they found that the distance had only strengthened their connection. They'd both grown, individually and together, and knew with certainty that their reunion was meant to be. With renewed commitment, they set out on a new chapter, one where love, ambition, and understanding could coexist in harmony. The years that followed were not without challenges, but Mark and Emma faced them together, building a life founded on the lessons they'd learned. Their story became one of resilience, of love lost and found, and the beautiful possibilities that life holds when one dares to dream.
Congratulations! You've just read and listened to The Lost Love. Let's reinforce what you've learned and practice your English skills. Great job! By listening to stories, you not only enjoy the plot but also improve your language skills. Keep practicing, and remember that every time you read or listen to a story in English, you're getting one step closer to fluency.